Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. And for the first time in like a decade or so, EA Sports is finally going to publish their college football video game. We've talked about it previously. They put out the official trailer, which there's a couple things that stood out to me. But it's officially going to happen. I'm kind of disappointed on two things because they had talked about wanting to do it for computers, for PC. And so that's where I really wanted to go ahead and get the game, because from a standpoint of like game preservation, if they don't make the game backwards compatible and they end up not making another college football game, if it's on computers and you own it, it pretty much doesn't go away. Even if the license is expired, I don't think any stores really go back and take games away from you. So I was disappointed there. And the reasoning that they've been hinting that they didn't get it on PC like they promised is because they've been having trouble like fixing bugs. And so I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bad sign. And then they put out the trailer that they've been waiting to announce for 3 months. I think they talked about it in February. The trailer didn't have any gameplay in it. It was pretty much just a movie. So I'm like, you guys are telling us that there's a lot of bugs in your game, and you didn't even have it in a good enough spot with like a month and a half to go to show it off? I saw a lot of people were hyped about the trailer, but I was kind of like, after that, I'm kind of hesitant now to buy the game right away. Because did you see the pricing for them? It's $70 for the game. Then they have a bonus, whatever the bonus is, like $100. And then there's like a double pack with Madden you can get for $150. And I'm like, why? Why are the game prices going up so high? It makes no sense.
Doesn't know we're in a recession?
Well, remember whenever EA Sports used to put out the games for like $20? Or not EA, Sega did that as their competitor. They did that partnership with ESPN, and they did ESPN football. And they were like, look, guys, we're putting the same game out every year. It's $20. You're basically paying for the roster update. We're just going to make some improvements. And then it was awesome, because then that's typically what you're doing anyway. So my thoughts on it are, if you're looking to buy it, you have two options. You either have to buy an Xbox Series X, or you have to buy a PS5. They're both expensive if you don't have a console. I had some people ask, like, what do you recommend if you don't have one? Well, if you have one, just get it for whatever you have. There's no use buying a new system. I think the Xbox is more powerful. That doesn't mean the game's going to run better on it. They haven't shown a demo on either system yet, so you don't really know if they're prioritizing one or the other. The one thing that I do like about the Xbox is its backwards compatibility is better. So you can play games from the PS3, Xbox 360 era that are backwards compatible. A lot of them, like sports games, kind of aren't, but there are some gems in there. Like some of the old Resident Evil games and stuff that you really can't play anywhere else, that you can only get on the Xbox right now. And they seem to be going forward where if they release like an Xbox Pro or something, the game in theory should work. I think most of the games that come out now have to be backwards compatible. So it makes me feel a little bit better. PlayStation, I was kind of peeved with them because they cut off all the PS3 games that you bought digitally. You just can't access them anymore. Where Xbox, it seems to be, they've done a little bit better job. Unless the publisher pulled them, then you can still play Xbox and original Xbox games on the new Xbox and Xbox 360 games. So if you have like old fighting games or something in your account, they should play up. And you can also play some of them on computer. But because there's no computer version of this game, it doesn't matter. So I'm worried that this first game is going to be a bust. And that people are going to be disappointed. And I'm hoping that the backlash that we see in a month doesn't deter them from doing another game next year. Because like any sports game, once they do the first one, they're not going to redo it completely. They're just going to go ahead and fix the bugs for next year's game. So I think a lot of people are going to buy it. I just hope they don't end up returning it. because I think that's where a lot of people are. I've seen a lot of games come out recently that have been hyped up that failed in that aspect, and then they never make it back, and the sequel never happens. And this could be the last college football game that we ever get, which would be weird. So that's my big update for those of you that are excited about it. They had 3 guys on the cover. Quinn Ewers from Texas. Was it Travis Hunter from Colorado? And then Donovan Edwards from Michigan, which I thought was a cool compromise because they kind of did the NIL thing. And I almost wonder if that's what kind of convinced Donovan Edwards to come back, because he was probably 50-50. And rumors were that he was leaning to go to the NFL. Come back, be the face of the game. That's a pretty good deal for NIL. I don't know what they ended up paying them, but I would think that that's going to help your publicity going into the season, at least for Heisman stuff too, because a lot of people, they'll know who's on the cover of the game, at least back in the day. But yeah, Travis Hunter, I was surprised that Colorado made the cut, because typically you're going to have other guys that are kind of hyped up to that level. But honestly, he is probably one of the best players I had seen last year. So well deserved there. And it's big that Dion has got Colorado in a place that you can have the team be on such a national level without really having a deep run in the regular season, right? They kind of fizzled out early. They hit a couple games. I don't even know what the record ended up being. Was it even a winning record? So to keep the hype train going, that's a good sign, I think. Speaking of NIL stuff, did you see that Florida quarterback is going after their collective?
Yeah.
So they promised them like $13 million, and then they didn't deliver?
Yeah, that's a very Florida thing to do.
I don't know how. I think we're going to see, I don't even know if I want to say a normalization, but there's going to be a lower amount that eventually kind of settles in. Because if you're the collective, and he's like, we're going to pay you whatever. I think they was supposed to get $1 million upon signing, and then his career was worth $13 million. They didn't give him the signing. He never really panned out. So now, depending on what the contract states, if he even has one, I don't know how you can prove that. Other than, like, if Miami gave him a written one, and then he can use that and say, like, look, they promised me $1 million to beat this signing bonus verbally, he could probably take that to court, and with that proof, kind of use that as kind of like a verbal thing. But if it's like a backdoor handshake deal, how do you get the money?
I think that it wouldn't surprise me if Florida sets the precedent for screwing up an NIL deal and getting their faces sued off.
Well, the thing is, the NIL in like its definition is like he's selling his likeness. So it's going to be hard, I think, for him, the way the contract should work anyway, is that he would have to play for them, and then they probably have some type of, I don't know, I would think they'd have some type of tiered goal system, right? Coaches have it in there where like, hey, you get an extra bump if you win this. You get an extra bump if you do this. And I think right now what we're seeing is more just kind of pay to play, where it's like, oh, $13 million, what do I have to do? Just be here. Right? Because that's what, was it Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting sued by Fanatics, right? And I saw people spin it like, oh, they're a scummy company. But I'm like, it makes it seem like he thought it was pay for play. Like they're just giving him money to go to Ohio State, and he's like, doesn't have to show up for anything. And they were like, no, this is supposed to be an NIL type deal. We were supposed to show up. You didn't show up. And so now that makes me think, were the rest of Ohio State's deals illegal? Because by definition from the NCAA, you have to have some type of transfer. You can't just give the guy money. That's not an NIL. That's a pay for play. So that's another case that's going to be interesting to watch, where if Fanatic says, like, hey, he never showed up, and they do some digging and he didn't show up for any of his NIL deals, would that make him ineligible?
I mean, everything. He's not a Florida State player, so I'm sure he'll get immediate transfer access.
Well, he's in the NFL now, so he probably doesn't even care. He could just pull the hardball and just not show up. Although recently Ohio State and Michigan State's athletic departments are pressuring Central Michigan to find out who's on the sideline, like a Where's Waldo. Michigan State said that they put their future at CMU at risk. Or like scheduling them. I'm like, all right. What are they going to say? Like, yo, yeah, sorry, we let him illegally tape your sideline. Like, why would they incriminate themselves? Makes no sense. Plus, what if it's not even him? It's just another bro on the sideline. I feel like that's a sticky situation to start calling things out. And if it is him, that makes it, to me, it's even more clear that the guy would be crazy enough to sneak in and do a sideline gig. I think I read one of the articles from one of the Michigan, like not the Michigan University connected, but like the Detroit papers or something, where they're saying that it is legal for a coach to be able to do contract work for another university. So they're saying that even if Michigan State's calling him out, if they had hired him, they did nothing wrong. So like there's nothing Michigan State could say. And I also read that it was at Michigan Stadium, or Michigan State Stadium. So they would have had to clear him to enter the sideline, which is another thing that Central Michigan's looking at. Don't blame us. We gave you the names. Why is it a big deal now? Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if that's the case and that's Central Michigan's defense, to me, that's a pretty good one. Hey, we hired this guy. He has his own private, whatever, consulting, coaching thing. We hired him. It's at your stadium. You vetted him. We didn't. Why would we care what your schedule is if you're going to coach against him or play against him, right? Why would Central Michigan have to do that? It's at Michigan State Stadium. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, there's probably a little bit. It'd probably be a little bit more illegal from the Michigan side of things, but to their point, if they're saying Michigan State, like the name is on there, you cleared them. The ball's back in their court, and I really don't think how they're. I think that kind of gets Michigan off the, or out from underneath it too, because then Michigan State can't say that they didn't know, because they let him go in. Because Michigan can say like, well, we didn't know he was going to be there. You guys let him there. Like that's your fault, because Michigan State was saying that it was player safety issue, but they must not have cared if they let him there, unless he had a fake name. But that still seems suspicious because he had all Central Michigan gear. So it'd be hard to be like, could you imagine if you just emailed him, Matt? Like, hey, I'm a coach. Can I come on your sideline? Because like, how would you get the pass and the gear? They're like, not only will we let you on the sideline, Matt, to do some analytics work for us, we're going to give you a coach's outfit. You like Nike gear? We have a deal with Nike. Come on down. You can wear your Ray-Bans on the sideline or whatever you had on. Awesome. That's where that's my pretty much. Oh, it's not even all the college news I had. But you have any thoughts on the NIL stuff or even the video game? Because I know I kind of skipped over that. All right, let's get into the last college football news then. The next big thing, I think it started last year. Penn State voted to do $70 million renovations on their stadium. Came back this year. The board of trustees just, I think, a couple hours before the show, just approved the rest of it. It's going to be $700 million stadium renovation. And if you've been in that stadium, it needs it, right? Have you been there recently?
No.
It is like, people always said it's like a giant erector set. That's what it's like. I've been down low underneath. It's much better. If you're up top, especially when you get to the colder games, I think I saw like a Maryland Penn State game there, freezing cold. You would not want to be there. The bleachers are freezing because there's nothing really insulating them. It's just metal, cold metal, because it's basically just like the metal bleachers that you'd see at any high school. Up high, where the wind just beats against it. So it's not a comfortable stadium. We'll put it that way. And with the bench seating, they pack you in there. It's not made for people weights in 2024. People weighed a lot less when that stadium was built. So the seating never got adjusted for the body sizes that you see now. So I'll say if you try to sit down, there'll be 10 gigantic dudes squished in beside you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Or you're standing like kind of a little bit crooked, which is super annoying. As I have broad shoulders, you don't want to be doing that.
But the thing is, with that stadium, I don't know how they get away with doing the seating the way that they do now. Because, like, for as many plus-size people as there appear to be in our country right now, like, you literally have 12 inches. Like, unless you're a borderline anorexic or eating disorder type person, you're not fitting in one seat. Like, you're very easily spilling into 2/3.
That's the beauty of it. You bring a date to the game, and then she's like, where's my seat? You have to sit on my lap. I'm sorry. We have to share a seat. Are you serious? Have you never been here? I can't pay for 3 tickets to give you a little bit extra space. But they did say one of the board of trustees leaked out the information. I don't even know if I should be sharing this, but his name's on the doc, so I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to get in trouble. Although maybe he doesn't care. Penn State is now going to be so in debt that they're going to have the highest debt to income ratio in the entire country, behind universities such as like Cal Berkeley, that is so in debt that it's cutting sports programs to pay for their other renovations. So if this goes south for the Big Ten, Penn State's going to be in a world of hurt, right? You can't be doing a stadium renovation when you don't have the income to kind of pay for it. And $700 million is a high price tag. Like, I really don't think they're going to be able to get a big time booster to write a check to pay off that, right? I don't see many $1 billion checks coming through, and that's getting close to that number. They did say that the goal from the Board of Trustees guy that leaked out is that they're probably going to have to reduce seating, but they want to maintain the seating capacity as one of the highest. Because right now, I think they're number 2 behind Michigan Stadium, right? At Michigan Stadium, they could go up. For people that don't know, Michigan Stadium is down in the ground, kind of. So if they really wanted to, Michigan could just find a way to add other rows of seats to stay as the number 1 stadium if they really wanted to. Penn State, with the way their stadium just sits up there and it's all rickety, I really don't see any way that they're going to be able to add on seats. Like Matt was saying, if they go ahead and do luxury seats that have like the armrests and stuff that a lot of outdoor stadiums have been doing, that cuts your seating capacity by a good bit. I think Ohio State dropped theirs down, doing the same thing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State came back in a year or two, or maybe even next week we find out numbers when more of this information comes out, that they're going to be losing like 7,000 seats. I would not be surprised in the least. There's nowhere for them to really add unless they try to seal around the outer part somehow. I mean, I guess they could do that. But how much does $700 million get you these days? Enough to finish the outside, build like a brick. Because they could do the one side I'm thinking of.
I want to say that for $700 million, you should be getting a pile of renovation.
Because they could build, so like NC State, they have a football facility on the one side that kind of helps close things in. So if Penn State kind of did that in the one high section, like where they normally stick the visitors, and they did like a big Penn State Hall of Fame or something, and kind of sealed that in and added the extra seats up there, then even by cutting capacity, they could still stay pretty high. But with this amount of money, I have to think they're going to raise ticket prices. And at that point, what's the breaking point, right? Are they going to keep selling tickets? With the new Big Ten, if Penn State starts going 7-5 every year, are they going to sell out the stadium?
I think they probably will because there's nothing else to do.
You live around there. You know that.
I know. That's why I can affirm. There's literally nothing else to do.
They do have great tailgating there. It's like a field. So it's almost like going to Woodstock. And if it rained, you could just have your own like mud fest. If you had a small car, you probably wouldn't be getting out until it dried up. But they do have some fun tailgating around there. I will say that. But that's what I'm wondering, how much of the renovations, because like you're literally just like out in the elements for parts of that stadium. So are they going to be able to close it up? And there's no natural, like they can't just like bury it a semi to get a little bit more stability. So it'd be interesting to see. A lot of conferences are kind of shutting down or like slimming down. Remember, on the other side, Northwestern's playing some of their games at Wrigley. I think they just said that they're going to play Ohio State there. Some of their games, I don't know if you saw this, Matt. Northwestern's going to be playing at like the training high school facility. And I'm like, how many people are going to be at that game? It's not like a Texas high school stadium. I saw it. It looks pretty cool. I think it's on the river, where it looked like they were going to bring in extra bleachers. And then I thought, like, you're bringing in bleachers? On what, both sides? It'll be like a kid's game. And so maybe like for some of their other games, like they're just not going to have the seating this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be like the Big Ten network staple, or like all their games are only on Peacock, because like the Big Ten is going to be like, we don't want to show that game. Look at the stadiums. Normally, like, what are they going to put up posters like Miami? They just have a big Northwestern banner around to make it look like more people are there, or blocking it off. Because based on the pictures that I saw of where they're going to be playing, there's no way to hide that you're not in an actual stadium. It kind of reminds me of like some colleges' soccer stadiums, are kind of like St. Francis. You know how like they had that one like side that's just bleachers like by the woods? Imagine that, but it's just a river behind there. So like a kid could just throw a football from the bleachers into the river. Like that's how open it is, and like how you don't have a lot of space from what I've seen. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the depth of the picture is different, or they're playing somewhere totally different. But they're scaling down their stadium to a much smaller size. And I saw NBA, which made me think of this. The NBA was complaining when in their TV negotiation deal thing that's going on, that they don't make enough revenue from in-person because their stadiums are smaller. But then I looked, they're not even selling their stadiums out. So what are they complaining about? Right? Like, I know you're playing 82 games. You can't complain that baseball makes more money because their stadiums are bigger. But then your stadiums aren't even hitting capacity. So why complain about the ticket difference anyway? Like, you can't make it up. You could make an indoor stadium bigger. Right? If they really wanted to, they could make a bigger. They played the college basketball tournament at, like, the Cowboy Stadium, right? That's like, what, 80,000?
I mean, on that note, like, I know the programs have struggled, but I would feel like when Minnesota had the dome and with Syracuse playing in the dome in the North, I would feel like they would be better attended. And granted, I know that record matters, but I still feel like with having the ability to have the climate controlled, that you would see a better turnout.
Well, Minnesota's new stadium, Does it have a retractable roof? I know they went smaller, and they've been decent under PJ Fleck. It's not like they've been awful. I mean, they haven't won the Big Ten West, so now it might be a little bit more difficult. But then again, it's like we don't know how it's going to affect some of these teams now with the new teams coming in. Are they going to have better attendance? Because now there's like, instead of only having 2, maybe 3 marquee games on the like schedule each year, now there's 4 or 5, even in off years because you're rotating through. So you'll get your rival, they'll get Wisconsin, they might get Michigan, the secondary rival. And then after that, now if you don't get them, you're probably going to get Ohio State or Penn State or USC or Oregon or even Washington. Is that enough to kind of get interest into some of these programs to get them to sell out? I don't know. Because if you're a season ticket holder, I always hear people like at Pitt, like, I'm going to buy the Pitt tickets and I'm going to sell them to get my money back. They're going to sell all the good games. Every Pitt fan tells me this. Like it's like a secret. They're like, I got to tell you something, buddy. I bought Pitt season tickets. I'm not going to go to the best games. I'm going to sell them. I'll get tickets for free. I get to watch them play Delaware State for free. And I'm like, why? That's insane to me. If you're going to buy the season tickets, go to the best games. Try to sell the other ones for cheap and get some of your money back, but then you get the tickets to the best games. Why would you go to the worst games? It makes no sense to me. It seems like I hear that more from Pitt fans than anywhere else. It's like, if we get Notre Dame on the schedule, oh man, just think of how much of my money I'm going to get back, baby. It's like, get a part-time job if you're that worried. What are you talking about? Really hoping they put Penn State on the schedule. Whew, I'm in there. I got my points. I'm definitely going to get a season ticket. I can sell that Penn State ticket and get all my money back, Matt. I might have to watch him play Boston College or something, but it'll be worth it. I didn't get to watch him upset Penn State because then they beat him the one year, and everyone was like, "Oh, I wish I would have went." And I'm like, "You had season tickets, you idiot. You sold them." Why? I have no idea. Well, I have no idea why you would do that. But that's where some of these other teams, I wonder, like now, especially in the Big Ten and the SEC, it's kind of, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same. I don't know how their schedules, because they only play an 8-game schedule, so it doesn't help them as much, I don't think. Where in the Big Ten with the 9-game schedule, if you didn't get one of the big boys because you're in the other conference, the other division, the West, some of those schedules were pretty bad, if we're being honest. And I'm a Big Ten guy. I would have been bored after a year or two. I'd have been like, yeah, Nebraska's coming. Are they hyped up? Yeah, they're always hyped up. Someone said, this is the first time Nebraska's been hyped since the 90s. I'm like, do you not remember when Scott Frost got hired? They were hyped the same way. Hyped, this is a year. Scott Frost had UCF clicking in year 2, and then they fell apart. So when people were like...
and then they had Martinez there, the quarterback, for like 19 years.
Yeah, that's why when Matt Rule, they're like, this is Matt Rule's second year. They got the top 5-star quarterback or whatever they got. They're clicking. They're in this year. I'm like, this is the same exact argument I heard from Scott Frost. Were you good? Matt Rule was complaining that last year they had 2 games lost by officiating, and then he said that Michigan scouted them, so that was a game they should have won. I'm like, really? That's how you felt about the season? The official stole 2 games from you. I don't know which games he was referencing, but I really don't think that they lost on the call at the end. Like, it's not like the official took a touchdown away from them. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to Nebraska. But he made it seem like they went 9-3 and had 3 controversial losses. They had a bad record last year. What was he talking about? They're insane. But I think those are most of my college things. Penn State Stadium. Let me know if you're excited about the stadium renovations. I see a lot of people. Michigan's starting to sell beer at the game this year. I would never stand in line at Michigan Stadium for a beer. The first time I went, I didn't even leave my seat because I was like way down low. I could barely breathe because it was Notre Dame at night. 2013, my first season ticket game, and I was like, my student ticket game, and I was like, holy crap, I couldn't even breathe. That's how tight it was. But I'm like, I will wet my pants here. I am not climbing those steps and then having to fight my way all the way back down. But now you're going to have people that are climbing the steps, waiting a half hour for a beer, and then fighting their way back down, and then most likely going back up for another beer. I feel like it's going to be a nightmare. I'm not going to lie. And I want to know, so if you're on the Penn State side, are you looking forward to the renovations? Would that make you go to more games if there was less seating? I don't think it's going to do any favors elsewhere, but having a little bit more room would be good. But that's my last tidbit for college. Do you have anything you want to talk about for college football?
Just the ongoing the litigation stuff's going on in the Florida State trial, and it seems like they're starting to make a little bit of progress with it. One of the biggest things that has come out that they're trying to see they're trying to prove, like, with the grant of rights and the media deal, because they're saying, well, if you leave the ACC, then ESPN doesn't necessarily have to broadcast any of your games. So it's like, so you're saying that there's reason for those things to be tied together.
I think I've said that before. What if they just didn't care? Right?
Well, and part of it is that it exclusively negotiates exclusively with ESPN. So any of the other online platforms, any of the streaming services, none of that stuff is covered. So it's like, what kind of deal did you cut where you exclusively gave it to ESPN and then didn't allow yourself the opportunity to have any other competition, interest from other parties that you could broadcast these games? It's like you're either on ESPN or you're on the damn CW.
The CW. I know, I saw an NC State Wolfpack shirt where the C and NC State and then the W and Wolfpack lined up with the CW logo. And I thought, if I find that in stock, I might just get you one. So you can wear it around.
Oh my.
It made me crack up when people posted it that it's going to be in stores. I was like, why are we selling a CW shirt? It was probably a knockoff, whatever. But I was like,
there has to be at least 3 copyright violations.
My buddy was like, when they went to the Final Four, he's like, hey, if you see any Final Four merch, you should buy me one. If I saw that CW shirt, I'd buy him that instead. Be like, I wanted a Final Four shirt, not a CW NC State shirt. I'm like, that's our number one sponsor right now, buddy. But yeah, I always wondered, like, if Florida State, because my argument was, if they really wanted to play hardball, Florida State could get the best of both worlds by leaving, and if they're going to hold their rights ransom, it's only for home games. So they could really just say, we're only going to play 6 home games and let ESPN show them. ESPN is either going to show them or they're not. Like, there's no two ways around it. And what if Florida State took it a little bit further? And I know this would kind of hurt the fans. What if they just played 2 or 3 neutral site games? Like, if they had a big hometown game, they play it in Orlando instead, or Tampa Bay.
Or, I don't know, Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, it's like they're doing this year. Because then ESPN wouldn't have the rights. I mean, it could be technically a home game, but I don't know if they get those split rights like that. Just make Florida State the away team. Who cares? Like, I don't think the Big Ten would mind if Florida State came in and they're like, look, guys, we have a plan. We're just going to play neutral site games whenever we have a big game. And we don't care if the Indianas of the world, because like ESPN's like, well, what's our Florida State game we're gonna put on the ESPN2 today? It's like they're playing Indiana, and they're like, damn, he's Indiana again. They play him 3 times this year. It's playing Indiana 3 times, and then play a couple of neutral site games, and then ESPN doesn't get any of the rights. Then they'll want to give it up That's what they should present to ESPN as like their counter argument. Guys, we decided we're just going to play neutral site games. Ireland, we could play in Germany. Like, we're going to expand the brand. Remember?
I think if they keep pushing, they'll get to that point where it was like at the point of Jordan Travis's injury, they already had it in their mind made up that they weren't going to include Florida State. Like that level of snubbing should matter somewhere. And I think that's where they want to just get this to go away. And I feel like it may end up getting moved to the Florida courts, because when you look at all of these media rights and financial stuff, it's the state of Florida that's going to be impacted more, I would think, than North Carolina, because with Florida State being a Florida State school, that's where a lot of revenue's coming into Tallahassee. That's where you're having a lot of the outside people coming in. If they're having to pay out a ridiculous buyout fee and cut of media rights and this and that, then it may be Florida the site for where this battle is going to be waged.
And you brought that up. I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week, but I had been following the ACC, but I didn't hear about the UNC stuff until you had asked about it. And then in the briefing that launched after our show last week, North Carolina itself, the University of North Carolina, they're in a hole financially that the ACC is not going to be able to fix. I talked about Penn State putting themselves in a hole. They're counting on the Big Ten money. If that Big Ten money ends up drying up in a couple years, like the Cal, they could be in trouble. But UNC is in trouble right now. They blamed it on COVID. But how can they be the only university in the state that's in this financial, like, dire straits, right? How? It can't all be COVID. It's because UNC doesn't fill up the stadium. And so they're at the point where they play a lot of sports, and they're successful in a lot of, like, Olympic sports, to where, are they going to start making cuts? Or are they going to start demanding the ACC pay them more? Because if you imagine if Florida State gets stuck there, and then UNC is like, oh, we need to make more money, kind of like a Texas flex, it'd be like, hell no. Are you serious, guys? This is what you're throwing your weight around with? Because now I'm at the point where I don't see Florida State, like I've said all along, I've never seen them joining the SEC. Because they're in bed with ESPN. You don't get snubbed to the level that they did, like you brought up. And then the next year be like, well, hey, water under the bridge. We're here, buddy. Because every time ESPN's doing the SEC schedules or whatever, it's going to be brought up. Did you see the interview that they brought up with the NFL guy about Taylor Swift affecting their schedules? So Schefter came on and interviewed the NFL guy, and he asked him if Taylor Swift had an impact on the NFL schedule. And he said, Taylor Swift had more of an impact on my daughter's bar mitzvah. But he didn't say no. So basically what he said was, yeah, she had an impact on the NFL schedule. The bar mitzvah stuff, I don't know what the hell he was trying to say, but he didn't want to say no because he couldn't say no. He said that, oh, well, we looked at the tour schedules and stuff. And it's like, why? Why would that come up? Do the other players, didn't Russell Wilson marry a singer? Did he submit her tour schedule every year? Seahawks came around, Pete Carroll's like, all right, give me your wife's itineraries, guys. We got to get the schedule done. Because he's not even married to the Travis Kelce. So, like, it's insane that the guy can't even come out and say no. But he has to beat around the bush and say that his daughter had listened to a bunch of Taylor Swift at her bar mitzvah and she had more of an impact there. It's like, well, if she listened to the songs and she had an impact, so you're saying that she had a lesser impact with the schedule, but she did impact it. He should have been like a lawyer. So you're saying she did impact the schedule, and he would have said, yes, she did. We had to look at the flights and stuff because she was touring in different stadiums or whatever. He made it seem like that it wasn't related to Travis Kelce, but she was playing in like New Orleans or something in their stadium, so that it wasn't available for the game. It was insane. That's kind of what I think Florida State should be like. Hey, you guys are impacting our daily lives. We don't care about ESPN. We're not going to do your stuff. We'll be here. But
well, that's what's making me excited for this opening week 0 game in Ireland, because a nation that has prided itself on drinking volume of alcohol and just having all morning to gear up for Kirk Herbstreit, he may just break down right there on set.
Herbstreit, that's what annoyed me about the game, the ESPN game, or the EA college football game that we talked about earlier. They only did a deal with ESPN. So, like, you can play the old version of the game that people have been modding for free, and you can put CBS in the broadcast booth, you can put Fox, ESPN, but EA Sports is so cheap and lazy that they're just like, we're only going to do ESPN. So, I'm assuming, with my negativity about the bugs and stuff, I'm assuming it's going to be an SEC love fest again. And so it makes it so much better that Michigan won the national championship. And so now that they have to have that in the game. That was the end of the trailer. For people that didn't watch, I'll spoil it. Donovan Edwards is holding up the championship trophy, or the Rose Bowl trophy. I don't know what the hell trophy he's holding up, but he's holding up the trophy. And so it had to be annoying to Buckeye fans. So like the only highlight, they're only in the game. They showed the mascot, and then they showed one of their guys getting stiff-armed by Donovan Edwards, and then he holds up the national championship trophy. Like, that would have to piss you off as a fan. Like, hey, was your team in it? Like, yeah, I got stiff-armed by Donovan Edwards, and then he held up the national championship trophy. It really pissed me off. Like, I can see so many dynasties getting started right there. But the ESPN stuff just annoys me because it's like, I have to sit there and listen to Herbstreit and Reese Davis talk about being slighted in their favor. The same thing is starting to happen in softball too. I watched Michigan play Kentucky. The entire time, the announcers are talking about how great Kentucky is. Kentucky only had 20 or 30 wins. They shouldn't even have been in the tournament. They led every SEC softball team in the tournament. What's the point of even playing the regular season then? Michigan beat them, eliminated them, and it was laughing because the entire time the booth kept saying, like, well, Kentucky's going to start turning it on here. Guess what? They never turned it on. They never turned on. They're not that good. So Michigan ended up losing to Oklahoma State, which is like the 5 seed or whatever. So great season by them to win the Big Ten and get in there. But it's like, Michigan has 40 wins, guys. Kentucky had like 30. You're making it seem like Kentucky's like the best team in the world. They're not even ranked looking at the bracket. I don't follow the SEC, but it's absurd that they should have had so many teams in. And maybe maybe the World Series ends up being 8 SEC teams. I don't know. But ESPN doing it and only being in bed with the SEC is going to be real annoying for a lot of people really fast. Because they don't hide their bias. They don't hide it. And it's going to make me not want to listen to them. Right? I noticed that they've started to pull more ACC stuff off of ESPN Plus. I couldn't watch any of like the ACC baseball tournament or whatever. You had to subscribe to like the Raycom. They went back to the Raycom deal. So where it seemed like a year or two ago I could watch every game that wasn't blacked out, now I can't watch anything. It's all through, I have to pay for the cable ACC network. They like pulled ACC network off of ESPN Plus, but I can still watch SEC network there, which is insane because the ACC is getting paid less and they have the crappier deal. The only reason ESPN would do that is because they're trying to get extra money back from the ACC that they're either losing or what. But I think Florida State could probably use that in their case too. So hopefully they got their top men on it. They're down there putting together a lawsuit against ESPN because I'm tired of them. And I hate that the college football playoff just went and made a deal with them. Like, the Big Ten leadership is so weak. So weak. I hate them so much. The way they railroaded Harbaugh last year, and now the ESPN, or not ESPN, but the NFL Network is eating it up. Half their content is Jim Harbaugh content. They did a Sims thing for their schedule release. Harbaugh's doing his RV tour. I finally went around and watched the rest of the video. And then he did another, like, a brother thing And then when they did the schedule release, they had a whole big thing about him coaching against his brother again. Like in college, like they would have just been talking trash on him the entire time. So it really annoys me. I know we haven't been going this long for a while, but the last thing I had is the UFL. I try to get my football fix, right? They show me a little bit of a college football trailer. I'm like, I want to watch some UFL. The games, like I predicted at the end of the year, they don't matter. The regular season, the way they did the divisions, I'm pretty sure right now the playoffs are locked in. With DC losing their last 2 games, they're done. So the playoffs are going to be, I think the top 2 from each division, which if you're trying to build late season hype, it's kind of annoying because it's going to be St. Louis and San Antonio from the XFL. I think they play each other, and then Birmingham's undefeated. They'll play Michigan in the USFL side. And that's it. So we have 2 weeks of regular season games left, I believe, that don't mean anything. And that's why I would have liked them to keep, I don't even know if they could have done some type of other round robin, but do they really need 2 playoff games? No, they're already locked in. You can actually buy them right now. So the Birmingham Stallions are already locked in as the home team. It's going to be Saturday, June 8th, 3 p.m. on ABC. They're playing the Michigan Panthers. San Antonio versus St. Louis. The last 2 weeks are going to decide who's the home game or who's the home team. That game is going to be 7 p.m. on Sunday, June 9th on Fox. So the playoffs are already set. The last 2 weeks, why are they playing them? Like, I don't understand it. Like, that's where it's like, you didn't make the schedule. Like, they could have done, if they would have just did one big division. And I know they wanted to try to keep the XFL and the USFL separate, and they were trying to do a happy thing. But if you had the full thing, even if the top 4 teams are already set, now you're playing for seeding. Because who's going to not want to play Birmingham? Now it's already locked in that Michigan has to play them. So the Michigan Panthers are going to play at Birmingham. What should they be doing the last 2 weeks other than not showing any new stuff? Like if I was at practice, I would just be repping new tricks and new things, trying to get my team pumped up, and then I would be showing nothing in the game. Guys, we're going to go out there, we're going to play vanilla. I don't care if we lose by three touchdowns. Don't get hurt. All practice, we're going to be putting new wrinkles in. We're not going to show them in the game, and we're going to save it for the playoffs. That was exactly what I'd be doing if I were them. And if I'm Birmingham, I'm doing the same exact thing. Because, like, why are you playing anymore? You're already locked up. I think if they're probably even locked up. I don't even know if they do a home field for the championship game or if it's set. No, wait. No, it's already at the Dome in St. Louis. So St. Louis could play at home because that's where the neutral site ended up being, which is weird. But that's my other thing. Try to watch some football and I get disappointed because it's like such a vanilla, bland product, and then you didn't give me any excitement down the stretch.
But I almost felt like it mirrored more of what the USFL was last year. That I just felt like there just didn't feel like there was the kind of pop that I felt like we had from the XFL. And I don't know what that missing element is, but it's good enough for background noise, but it's not enough to suck you in and have you tuning in consistently.
Yeah, that's where it is kind of like that. It's almost like a pure minor league game where, hey, yeah, it's good. It's not the best, but it's going to be corporate and dry. Because like I see a lot of people always get like, oh, look at this wacky minor league promotion that they're running. And it's like, yeah, with social media, everyone's doing the same thing. Like there's no creativity anymore. It's not like watching Bull Durham, like they're hitting the bull, you win a steak, and like other weird things like that. Now it's kind of just like, they're just doing it to do it type things. Like they're not really trying to get people there. So that's kind of like where I'm at with the UFL. They're not really trying to get anyone there. They're just trying to be a safe version of the NFL in the spring where they have no competition. And that's it. Will it work out for them? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I really don't see how the NFL is going to buy into it. They're not going to expand teams. I don't know how you make it better. Maybe they're going to try to force another team in there. If they get to a 10 team, you could play each team once and then a rival twice. But then the teams have to have rivals. You can't just be random cities and like half of them in Texas, right? Like it doesn't make sense the way it's structured. So I would be surprised if there aren't changes in the next couple of years for it. But I do hope it does exist, because I do like having an option for football on TV. It just seems weird too that they're not finding bigger name guys to play in it. But that just could be by design, right? Because like no one's gonna, if you didn't make it in the NFL and you're a big name, you're probably set in whatever career path you went to. Selling insurance or something, right? Making a living off your name. Not playing in a league where, like, it could be like the Arena League where you don't know if you're going to even have a game. Team could just show up, you don't have equipment. But I don't know. You have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
I did see coming in late, I'm looking at some of the stuff now, the ACC joined the Big 12 trying to settle that NIL case against whatever house versus NCAA. Is that the regular House of Representatives? I don't even know. But they're going to have to come up with something. They're trying to get clarity on like Title IX and some of the other things, which is going to be the craziness where are you going to be able to get that money, and how are you going to funnel it in? Because if it is a true NIL, like I've been saying, the athlete has to get paid to do some type of promotion. What a lot of the deals and what people have been talking about is just pay for play. Oh, here's so much money. Like, my last thing I had in my notes is that the Caitlin Clark's WNBA debut, one of the highest ever, was only 2 million people. They were having almost 10 times that at her college, like Iowa, in the playoffs for the NCAA basketball. So like she's getting deals to do women's basketball stuff to supplement her income. That's kind of what NIL is supposed to be for college. If she would have went back to Iowa, could she have made more? Probably, right? I mean, that's going to be one of the things, like, what would make it worse? You're getting more eyeballs in college, but that's going to be a very, very rare case. Most guys are going to get whatever. Like the NCAA college football game we talked about, I think they were just maxing it out at $600, which I want to say is the same amount that was from that old Ed O'Bannon case, right? Where, like, if you were in Madden before, or NCAA football before it got shut down, they were sending checks to past players up to $600 based on if they were used for whatever. So a lot of people only got checks for like $50, $100. But you're a college kid, like, you're going to want to be in the game. You're going to want to get paid. Like, if a guy's like, hey, sorry, you're only getting $50, you're going to take the $50, right? You're not going to say, nah, I'll wait for some other guy to come in and I'll do a commercial for them instead. Like, you're not going to have that many opportunities, especially if you're at a smaller school. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of handle this deal. And for the bigger schools, like Harbaugh was saying, and what the NCAA was kind of getting after him for, he said, like, take some of the TV money and make that a percentage directly to the NIL. If the money is mostly for football, then the football team should get the money. But they don't like hearing that, right? Because they don't want to give their money away. Like, Harbaugh's salary is not going to go down if they start paying the Michigan guys. They'll just cut out the other administrative bloat. And those are the guys that are doing the investigations and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know how the ACC is going to be, how they're going to be able to fight all of these things and Florida State at the same time. I feel like they have a lot of lawsuits coming around in different places. Hard to have one consistent approach, right, if you're fighting everybody. Not that I'm going to say the ACC is going to blow up. I just don't know. Not all the schools from the ACC are going to get picked up if they do blow up. So it could be like a Pac-2. And then what happens? Go back to the Big East? That'd be weird. So, anything else you want to talk about?
No.
All right, that's all I have too, I think. So, thanks for listening. Like I said, we've been getting some good viewers looking out for our show. So make sure you tell your friends. You can go to southboundsports.com and find our latest episodes there. It's a good way for us to track if you're using our URL and stuff. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and we will see you next week.